The Denver Broncos just proved that they have a more than adequate replacement for Justin Simmons. We get more evidence that Sean Payton is a unicorn coach, the perfect person to turn the culture around here for the Denver Broncos. We get fantastic injury news out of Dove Valley, rather Broncos Park, and so much more in this video. If you're new to the channel, my name is Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan, born and raised in Colorado, living in Michigan now, and I'm surrounded by Lions fans. So that is what this channel is all about, is connecting with my fellow Broncos fans. So we're going to dive into some news of the day, and a lot of that news involves NFC teams. And my big question for all y'all is, who is your least favorite team in the entire NFC? I went to college in Illinois and surrounded by Bears fans, and I think they are the most obnoxious fans on the planet Earth. My in-laws are also Bears fans, so I love it when my brother-in-laws are sad. So I think the Bears are my least favorite team in the NFC. Hosting Green Bay Packers coming up, and I don't know, is there any bad blood with us and the Packers after Super Bowl 32? I feel like we won that little bout with them. And then the big news of the day is that Justin Simmons went to the NFC, to another team we beat in a Super Bowl, and so I don't have much beef with them. Justin Simmons signed a deal with the Atlanta Falcons. We know Atlanta had a lot of issues on defense, and rather than get a defender early in the draft when they could have, they got Michael Penix Jr. when they already had signed Kirk Cousins to a massive deal. So a lot of drama playing out there. But the interesting thing here is just looking at what a team-friendly deal this is, that it's a one-year contract worth $8 million, only $7.5 million guaranteed. He has some escalators and some clauses in his contract that means that he could have more. There's a lot of talk in Broncos country that could he be coming back. Even yesterday, his Instagram story had him highlight package of all the times he picked off Mahomes, and the soundtrack to that was like this cool song with the words like, "I'm back like I never left," and that had everybody in Broncos country like, Justin Simmons is coming back, and then he clarified it and was like, no other meaning there. I think he was referring to the fact that he was coming back to the NFL. Now that is such a team-friendly deal. The Broncos could have easily made that deal work if they wanted to. And to me, that proves that the Broncos are very happy with what we have with Brandon Jones coming back from injury. We're feeling good about him. JL Skinner is looking like a man among boys out there, and we already know what PJ Locke can do. So to me, this is truly showing that the Broncos are feeling very good about what we have in that safety room, because even just if we were to cut P. Ryan and I think one or two other, like we still have ways and paths to freeing up an additional $25 million this year with guys who might not even make the 53-man roster. So we easily could have squeezed a deal like this in, or made him a lifelong Bronco and prolong that contract out and made it work. Cap-wise, we totally could have made a deal like this work. So to me, definitely signs that the Denver Broncos are feeling good about what we have in our safety room. How are you going to react when the Atlanta Falcons come to town and we get to play Justin Simmons? I think it's going to be unanimous cheers. It's going to be a very different vibe at Mile High when he is playing there versus when Russell Wilson comes back week 2, if he is indeed the starter. Other cool, some training camp footage here. Loved this. Loved just seeing, the ball was on the ground a lot. And when I talked about that game against the Colts last Sunday, we dominated that game, that even with a fumble return for a touchdown, even with the fact that ball was on the ground 4 or 5 different times, that game was never in question. But we need to shore up the turnovers, and we cannot be losing turnover battles and expect to win a ton of games this year. If we're going to make the playoffs, we need ball security, job security, playoff security. And so I loved seeing this drill here with running backs and just seeing the strength of Audric Estime. He didn't have trouble with fumbles in college, and I think he got shook up right away and knows that it's different in the NFL. And so seeing this drill over and over, looks like you got one of those resistance bands tied to a ball, and you just got a beast just yanking on that ball, and I can just feel my neck going out of alignment. I don't think I could even hold on to that ball for a half second. And looking, most of these guys, even with someone yanking on that, still hanging on to it is awesome. Seeing Audric Estime, man, if I was on the other end of that, I think it would have launched me like all the way to Cherry Creek or something, just because he's so massive. But love to see that. Love to see it's not like a humiliation thing where you're carrying around a pink ball or anything like that, but just being like, hey, we got to hang on to the ball this year, guys, and seeing that we're being proactive with that. So something Sean Payton said he wanted to clean up for sure, was the turnovers. Other good thing, we keep hearing the national media continues to doubt us. I'm very curious when that narrative is going to shift. My guess is that by week 3, the national media will have jumped back on our bandwagon just like they did with the Texans when they rebounded. But we're hearing more and more belief, and I've talked multiple times on this channel that I think when coaches and players are asked about the media doubting them, the company line, if you actually don't think you're going to be any good, is to just say, well, there's a lot of tough teams in this division, and but we're scrappy. We'll do our best. And that is not what we're saying. We are not lowering expectations. That we have seen Jaleel come out and talk about how good he thinks we're going to be. We've seen Cortland. We saw Garrett Bowles just come out and say he thinks Bo Nix can lead us to the playoffs. We saw Sean Payton say, I've got 2 middle fingers for those people, but I've learned not to use them in my old age. And then hearing Vance Joseph say the same thing, just about how happy he is to have a young team.
Only know what the coach tells them, and they believe it and they buy it. Coach Payton does a great job of explaining where we are daily. Explaining football to our team daily. How to improve daily. So it's a young, open-minded group that's talented enough to win. So it's exciting to coach young players because they're so eager every day to improve. So they make you a better coach. You can't show up in the morning not ready to go because they are ready to go.
So they have not picked up bad habits yet. They do only what the coach tells them, and that's a good thing. Like that sounds like a bad thing, but we have a young group of talented players who are unproven at this point who are going to go out and execute what their coaches tell them. And I think that's just fantastic news for the future of this Denver Broncos team, and not the distant future. I'm talking about this year. The other thing that's really just stood out to me is the vibes around Sean Payton could not be different than this time last year. You've heard D-Mac talk about, hey, do I actually kind of like Sean Payton this year? And he is way more comfortable in his skin, and like that relaxing of stuff is a testament to the confidence that he has in this team and how different he thinks this year is going to go. And in his interview yesterday with Kay Adams, he talked about how he actually is excited and likes coaching Gen Z because while it might take, they don't just necessarily buy in right off the bat like old school generations did, but once they understand the why behind something, they are fully bought in. That you got to go back a couple steps and explain the why to them, and when they get it and they believe it themselves, they execute it to perfection. And what I've loved is that Sean Payton is the best of both worlds. He is old school Bill Parcells with a new school flair and rocking cool shoes and bringing Club Dub and doing having dance parties in the locker room. And I think that is the perfect combination. You don't want a pure player coach like they now have with the Raiders, or, we've seen that time and time again, that too much loosey-goosey fun under Nathaniel Hackett was the biggest clown show this organization has ever seen in my lifetime. Yet Sean Payton brings that fun and has a way of relating to guys that is extremely, extremely exciting. Here in that Kay Adams interview, also an amazing little quote here from Patrick Surtain, just talking about how good he thinks Bo is going to be and when he knew Bo was going to be good. And I'm having a hard time resizing this for it, but he basically talks about the first time that he saw Bo Nix throw a no-look pass, and he's like, ooh, this guy has that aura. He's got that mojo, that swagger that we need in our quarterback one, and that is very, very exciting. And you see that same thing echoed here as Lucas Krull. We remember Sean Payton said in a press conference early on when just first, second-year players were reporting, everyone is going to be looking at their media guide wondering who's number 85, but they're not going to wonder who he is for long. And we saw that in that preseason game that he dropped the rock and he fumbled. I wonder if that play was challenged or if they reviewed it in the booth, which they didn't for the preseason game. If it would have been upheld, it was a pretty quick thing. But you saw the Broncos go back to him multiple times immediately, and he just carved up the middle of that field. And hearing him here talk to 850K away about what he thinks from this team, again, not lowering expectations whatsoever, but leaning into all the high expectations we have.
Of offense, every single week for that, because that can be game changer for us. Offensively, I think we're going to be explosive. I think we're going to be fast. We're going to be violent, physical. defensively, I mean, those guys are going to get it done. They're going to find a way every time, you know.